Welcome back to Sergio Explains. In this video, I will explain how whiskey gets its color from the wood in the barrels, the different methods for aging whiskey in the United States and in Europe, and why most brands of Scotch whiskey add artificial color. I have here 2 glasses with hot water, and this tea bag represents the barrel. Each time I dip it in the hot water, it will represent 1 year of aging. By law, in the United States, whiskey must be aged in new barrels. New barrels provide more color and flavor, and therefore American whiskeys can be aged for only a few years. But in Europe, they prefer barrels that have been previously used to age other beverages. The wood in those used barrels provides less color and flavor to Scotch and Irish whiskies. Therefore, more years of aging are necessary. Now let's start over, and this time I will add some honey to the first glass. The honey represents the flavor of the original beverage aged in the barrel. Most often, it would be a bourbon, but it is also common to reuse casks that previously held rum, sherry, or port wines. Let's call this tea bag with a hint of honey a bourbon cask. When this cask is reused to age Scotch whiskey, a little bit of that bourbon flavor will be transmitted to the Scotch whiskey, even though I did not put any honey in this glass. Therefore, Scotch and Irish whiskies usually have subtle hints or notes of other beverages in them, in addition to the flavor and color provided by the wood in the barrels themselves. And sometimes Scotch whiskies are removed from those barrels after many years of aging, and then aged for an additional few months or years in a different kind of cask. For this example, I will use a tea bag of ginger tea. And I will dip it in our bourbon cask Scotch whiskey only once or twice. This is called finishing or double cask, depending on how long the whiskey is aged on that second barrel. All this provides incredibly complex aromas and flavors in every sip, which is the ultimate objective. But it might also cause the natural color of the whiskey to be different from one cask to another, and definitely different from 1 year to another, for single malts as well as for blended whiskeys. Therefore, most European distilleries add relatively tiny amounts of caramel color to their whiskeys in order to provide consistency in the color of their brands from bottle to bottle and year after year. The artificial color added to Scotch whiskey is called Yellow No. 5 or E158. But most people just call it caramel color, and believe it or not, it is the exact same artificial color used in Coke or Pepsi, but in lower quantities. This is the way Pepsi looks without the flavorless artificial caramel color. It tastes exactly the same as regular Pepsi, except that the one on the left has artificial color and the one on the right does not. Pepsi Crystal came out in the 1990s, and it was short-lived. Even though it had the same taste as regular Pepsi, people did not like it without the caramel color, and it had to be discontinued because nobody would buy it. And I know some of you must be thinking, come on, Sergio, you can't compare Pepsi to Scotch whiskey. So, let me compare it to cognac instead. I'm visiting once again the Whiskey Exchange website, and I'm going to search for cognac. At this time, They have 708 different bottles of cognac. I will sort them by price. Highest first, please. To see some of the most expensive cognac bottles in the market. For example, this Rémy Martin Louis XIII. Now, this is not just any Rémy Martin Louis XIII. This exclusive Jeroboam bottle costs 23,000 British pounds, which at the time of making this video is approximately 26,000 euro or $29,000. And when we click on the facts tab, coloring, yes. There's also a different way of finding out which Scotch whiskies have artificial color in them. In Germany and Denmark, by law, artificial color must be listed on the labels of Scotch whiskies sold there. Therefore, all brands of Scotch whiskey sold in the German and Danish markets that contain caramel color actually listed on those labels. I have here a bottle of single malt Scotch whiskey that I bought in Germany. This was produced in Scotland, of course, but for the German market. And when we turn it around and read the small print down here, you will see that it says in German, mit Farbstoff Zuckerkuller zur eigentlichen Fargebung, which means it contains caramel color for color consistency. Now, this is the exact same whiskey that you can buy in other countries, except that in other countries, it is not mandatory to list the artificial caramel color on the labels, so they just don't do it. And you can always check the Whiskey Exchange. But remember, it's just color. It does not have any flavor. They just add small amounts for consistency, and it makes your whiskey look better. So enjoy it. I know I do. If you have a question about whiskey, I am accepting questions right now, and I'll explain to you everything you want to know. You can write your questions in the comments below, and I'll answer them in my next video at Sergio Explains.